Hey guys, in continuing with the one shots because I don't feel like editing, I'm going to talk today a little bit about my physical injuries over my life and the persistent injuries that are with me today that have led me to become the kind of guy I am. Let's start with going all the way back. I had childhood asthma. I grew out of that, thankfully, but I did have childhood asthma and I was hospitalized a lot because, 5 years old, not using an inhaler, running around trying to keep up with the other kids. That will be a pattern. And, it would just kind of decimate me. And I was too stupid to learn my lesson. Too, I guess stubborn would be more of a accurate term. And as I grew up, I started really getting into BMX bikes. This was in the 80s, remember? So Haro and, even Huffies were good bikes, but they were common. But Haro was a very popular freestyling bike. I had a Randor, Northeast company. It was really expensive. It was, kind of bikes you would get on QVC, because back then QVC was awesome. And it had graphite wheels. It was one of the first freestyle bikes with black wheels, white tires. I'm just saying, I was the coolest kid on the block. Okay. And yeah, but I had a habit of riding on the local dirt track without permission, because even when it was closed, you just kind of roll your bike underneath the gate. They just didn't have a standard starting gate. It was always up to try to prevent you from doing the lap, but whatever, you just start just in front of it. But yeah, we'd have instances where I'd crash out and fall down, get hurt. I used to build our own ramps, so you jump 38 feet in the air and land in the street, because that was the 80s. We didn't have helmets, we didn't have elbow pads, things like that. I used to have a habit of hitting my head on stuff, because I figured that was the hardest thing. Might as well just hit the ground with that and just go with that. So yeah, as I started getting older, my feet were progressively flatter, and I started walking on the outsides, which is referred to as a supinator, when you walk on the outside edges of your feet. And my feet just kind of completely went flat. I mean, they were like paddles, just whap, whap, whap when I walked. And that led to some problems. I put on a metric crap ton of weight when I was about 16, 17, and that just destroyed my back. Just destroyed it, destroyed my knees. I had gotten so heavy that at a certain point, just walking up the stairs, 5, 6 stairs would wind me. If I got up too fast, I'd get dizzy. That's how fat I actually allowed myself to get. And yeah, that's taken 20 years to get rid of. So let that be a lesson to you. As I've shown in other videos, I'm not as fat as I used to be. You can see I'm actually reasonably sized for my height. I still call myself fat though, because doctors call you fat when you're 6'4" and 225 pounds, because they think you should be 190 pounds at 6'4". That's not the finger I intended to hold up. Use your imagination, doctors. About 17, 18 years old, I started developing cluster headaches. And cluster headaches, depending on who you ask, it can be categorized into mental problems, which will be in an upcoming video, or as I refer to them as, it's a physical problem, because it hurts. It doesn't make me as stupid as I think it could, but that doesn't make sense. But it hurts, and that's the point. Pain sucks. And cluster headaches, for those of you that don't know, and I'm sure I've talked about it in other videos, and I use a very loose description of cluster headaches, in that a cluster headache is not what it sounds like. It's not like a cluster bomb. It's not one bomb with 10 bombs inside of it and they all go off at once. A cluster headache is that all the headaches cluster together and they go one after another, and they're not always the same intensity. Some could be debilitating. I've had days where I'm vomiting violently, or they could just be super annoying right there, and it feels like the side of your head is being squeezed, like you fell asleep on the bus and some fat dude put his bag on top of your head and it's squeezing it. So yeah, and it's cyclical or episodic, whichever way you want to look at it. Cyclical means it's the same every time it comes around, so it's episodic. So you could have, for me anyways, I'm probably on the worst end of it, but for the average person, you could get 5, 6 headaches in a row that could last a week in total, and then you might have months where you don't have a headache. I, on the other hand, unfortunately suffer from the other version of it, where I might get a day or two without a headache, but I always have a headache otherwise. And I have so many bottles of pain pills, and not pain pills, headache pills, because opioids don't work on me. And it gets to the point where sometimes I'll take 25, 30 aspirin a day, just trying to edge out. It could be a vascular problem, although, since I don't respond to vasodilators, they think that's a problem. I don't really react to caffeine, which is a vasoconstrictor, and that's a problem. So when you have an idiosyncratic symptom, means they don't know what it's being caused by, they tend to discount it. They think that it's all up in here and it has nothing to do with my body, but it feels like my entire body gets squeezed when they happen, and it sucks. So, and I lost my train of thought because brain fog happens too when I'm in a lot of pain. But anyways, I've had these headaches for going on now 22 years. It's just the way it is. Every dose is, I take 3,000 milligrams of Excedrin when my headache flares up. So that'll tell you how bad that is. When I was in my teens, sophomore year of high school, I broke my arm, the humerus on the right side here. I flipped over the handlebars of my mountain bike. I built the mountain bike, so it was my fault. Duh. And I put my arms out to stop myself from hitting my face, because, I didn't want to hit my face. And my elbow impacted the ground, and it must have hit it at just the right angle to jam the humerus into the socket and then snap the top off. So that was my first really bad broken bone. I was born with a little bit messed up leg, but this was like my first real doit kind of break. And luckily we fixed it without surgery, and it set. But me being me, I had what was called a sling cast, because obviously you can't really cast the whole shoulder unless you have one of those like all the time up in the air kind of casts, and they didn't want to do that to me. So they put me in what's called a sling cast. It's a plaster cast, but it just goes underneath the arm, kind of like in a U shape. In a U shape, and it's made out of plaster, but it just uses ace bandage to hold it on. So it wasn't doing its job because I was taking it off. If I wanted to play like Apache Longbow on the computer, I would just take my arm out of it, just set my arm down on the arm of a chair, because the sling kept my arm too high up. I couldn't reach the keys. So by taking my arm out, I could use it, and that was fun. I've broken my right hand so many times that I have what is referred to as the boxer's break. You can see there how when I pull it down, you see how the last two knuckles aren't in line with the other two. That's because the bones in the middle, the carpals, or those metacarpals, anyways, they are broken, and the ends of the bones have healed, but they healed separated, so they form what's basically another set of joints in my hand. In fact, I can pop them like when you pop your knuckles. I can do that with the middle of my hand, and that's really annoying, because combine that with my arthritis and the fact that I'm right-handed and the fact that I've broken those two fingers like 6 times, and that adds up to some fun. After that, wow, I'm not even close to that because I'm still in my teenage years right there. When I was 22, my friends and I decided to celebrate my birthday at a Hooters at the Mall of America where I worked, where we proceeded to down about $100 worth of beer between 4 people. Then we decided to have a party, so we, cabbed it over to my buddy's house, which was a couple of miles away, had a big party, and I got even drunker. So I don't drink anymore because I'm a really good drinker and I'm an awesome drunk, but I don't like liquor. So go figure. But during the course of the night, I had to vom because, I think I just downed like a fifth of vodka in one shot. And I went out back and I was leaning against his railing, and his railing wasn't attached to his house. He was residing his house. So the railing was swinging free. It's the middle of January. I flip over. It was middle of November. My birthday's November 13th. Duh, dumbass. But I flipped over his railing and I landed on my foot, flat on my foot, which snapped the ball of the foot off. Not the ball, but the back corner. If you look at a skeleton, how the heel bone, I all of a sudden can't think of the name. I can't think of a lot of names. Mom? Anyways, that bone snapped and broke off a chunk, and instead of having surgery, I just went back to work. So that's been broken for 20 some years, almost 20 years. How old am I? Anyway, it's been about 20 years. That's been broken. When I was a kid, I fell down and snapped the corner off of the jaw here. You know how your jaw goes back and then has a little nyet where the pivot is? That's broken on this side. Has always been. It sits there floating around with it. Sometimes when I get bored, I'll sit there and move it around. And that's annoying because that hurts. I do have TMJ, temporal mandibular joint pain. I can't do it. I already did it twice this morning. But where your jaw can lock, it's like it can turn into lockjaw eventually. Competitive eaters get it. Obviously, glasses. I have a lazy eye, astigmatism. My hearing, thankfully, is good. Let's see, what else is physically wrong with me? Oh yeah, I now have 3 collapsed vertebrae, or herniated discs. C5, C6, and C7 in my neck. C6 on this side, C5, C6, and C7 on this side. So basically C6 is like squished like an Oreo that's been in the microwave, so that sucks. That creates a nice amount of pain. My shoulder never healed right because of taking it out of the sling, so I have nerve damage on this side. C6 on this side has caused permanent nerve damage because it's been 5 years. My hand is asleep all the time, but sometimes I get a really nice shooting pain. Pain sensors in my elbow to my wrist misfire. It could be some damage to the myelin sheath, which, if you don't know, is a coating around your nerves, which if it gets eroded, it's like touching a live wire, or if you've ever accidentally stuck your finger in a socket or licked both posts of a 9-volt battery. Imagine that pain times about 20, inconsistently and just randomly. And I get that. It's a neuropathy, or however you want to refer to it, but it's basically my nerves are shot. And because of this side collapsing, my right side is actually starting to go. This is the right side. So yeah, what else? My lower back is screwed up. I've had a bunch of lumbar punctures because obviously they were trying to figure out what's wrong with my brain. I have a broken tooth. I don't like to show it because it's been broken for years. Just every time I get insurance and I think about it, I just forget about it and I don't bother getting it fixed. I still need to get it fixed to get a cap on it. It's not broken off, it's just the base is broken from wear. Because when I used to be really fat, I used to eat a lot of sugary foods, a lot of sodas, things like that, and that's not good for your teeth, so keep that in mind, kid. I used to have a perfect smile, but my wisdom teeth all came in and basically screwed up my lower jaw, and got to make a video on when I spent an entire week drunk. You guys will like that. Is it raining? No, it's not raining. It's light out, though. Monkey doesn't like light. Obviously, I have my foot problems, which I've talked about, and you saw a little bit in yesterday's or 2 days ago's video. You saw the bottom of my left foot. I am diabetic, but I'm also allergic to antibiotics, and I'm non-reactive to most antibiotics. So when they force enough antibiotics to actually work, I eventually develop an allergy to it. Because I wasn't originally allergic to vancomycin or Zosyn. And over the course of many treatments, and I've had PICC lines, that's where they go in through the artery in your arm and it goes into your heart to deliver the poison, in this case, a lot quicker. So I've had that like 5 or 6 times, and the last time they did it to me, I became super violently ill, nauseated, threw up for like 5 days straight, and eventually had to figure out on my own that it was the Vanco, so that sucked. And eventually told them, and we stopped that. But I've become sensitive to all antibiotics now. So nowadays, if I get a if I get a cut or anything, I have to let it heal on its own, and be very careful, or force myself to take antibiotics, and then I don't eat for days. So one way or the other. So is that about it right now? Let's see. Well, my back is locking up, my arm is locking up, and I think that's about it for now. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know. But I think 14-minute list of broken parts is good enough for today. So if you have any questions, leave those down below. If you have any comments, leave those down below. If you'd like to subscribe, find it, and somewhere where this hand is floating will be some other videos. So check those out, and as always, I'll talk to you later.